Good morning. Today, I shall discuss some introductory ideas about electromagnetic induction. And we shall also see some activities to understand this particular phenomena. To understand this topic, the first important term that we need to know is magnetic flux. We can denote it as phi of B. Phi for the flux, and generally we use the subscript B for indicating that it is magnetic flux. Suppose in a region we have a uniform magnetic field like so. It may not be uniform, and in this region I choose a very small area element like so. This surface is an open surface, and its area vector we can represent like so. This I'll write as a delta S vector, and if this element is very small we can also write ds vector. This area vector, in most words, it is always directed normal to the surface. For example, this is a surface, so normal to this will be like so. For this face, the normal will be towards you. For this face, the normal will be towards me. For this side face, the normal will be in that direction, and so on. This area vector, if it makes some angle with this magnetic field, say theta, then we define this magnetic flux through this surface as a phi b or delta phi b as the dot product of these two vectors, one b vector and one delta s vector. So this is the definition for magnetic flux. Now, because this magnetic flux can be measured in SI units for Tesla of Tesla, area we know it's meter square. Therefore, the flux, magnetic flux should have SI unit Tesla meter square, which we also called as Weber. So we have 1 Weber is equal to 1 Tesla meter square. So this is the definition for magnetic flux. Basically, it gives you an idea about the relative number of magnetic field lines crossing normally through a given area. A relative number. Okay. If the field is not uniform, it may be non-uniform, then at a given point, suppose the magnetic field has some value, say B vector, and very small area element I'll choose. At the same point, this area element will be so small that across this face or surface, the magnetic field variation can be neglected. So in this case, I'll not write delta S, I'll write rather the vector as ds vector, indicating it is very, very small. And the entire surface can be of some shape like so. This is the total surface. I have chosen a very small element within which the magnetic field has a value b vector directed so. And let this angle be alpha. Then the flux through this particular shaded surface will write as d phi, and that will be b vector dot ds vector. And therefore the flux through the entire surface, here the magnetic field can be in different direction, here the magnetic field can be in different direction, and so on. So the flux through the entire surface will then be obtained by simply integrating this expression over the entire surface of the object or the loop or the conductor. Having understood the meaning of flux, next important terminology is electromagnetic induction, and about which we have two laws given by Michael Faraday. These laws are so very important that one can say that these laws, two laws of Faraday, they run entire nations, or in fact I should say world's economy. You will understand that after the class why I said so. The first law says that if we have some conducting loop of any shape, that means I have a wire, and it may not be a loop also. It can be wire of any shape which does not form closed loop. So if we have a conductor, most general form, placed in external magnetic field, and through this conducting loop or conducting wire or metallic conductor, through this, if magnetic field changes, let me rectify myself, if magnetic flux changes, if magnetic flux linking through some loop, through some circuit, through some metal changes, then in this particular wire or conductor, some EMF will be induced. And if it is a closed loop or closed conductor, then we can find some current also in that. That current we will call as induced current. And this phenomenon is called as electromagnetic induction. So these terms, these definitions you can find in textbooks. So you can have the ideas from there. Just I wanted to discuss the concept. So what I told, if a flux linking through some coil, conducting coil changes, then an EMF is induced. A potential difference is induced in the coil, and if it is closed, then that potential difference will result in some current. So electrons will start moving in that particular wire. There will be some current which we call as induced current, and this phenomenon is called as we say electromagnetic induction. Faraday proposed two laws. Yes, EMF is induced, but then how much? So the first law of Faraday says that this induced EMF, its magnitude, is the rate of change of this magnetic flux. The net flux linkage, we should say. Actually, if we have one turn in a loop, suppose we are having a loop of wire, instead of one, if we have suppose three turns in that loop, then we can multiply this equation by n. Here you should understand this is the total flux linking through all the turns of the coil. So if phi b changes with respect to time, then the time rate of change of magnetic flux is equal to induced EMF. Now this we accept as a result for the time being. Today is just the introductory class, and we shall see how this effect makes some phenomena happen. Now this phi b we have seen is given as B times ds. Okay? Or B times A times ds I can write as area. So this I can write as d by dt. If this is the flux over a very small area or some area A, then I can write it as B vector dot ds vector integral. As I have explained there, phi is B dot ds. Now suppose the angle between these two vectors B and ds is alpha or theta, then we can write B times ds times cos theta. So let me take some specific example. If the magnetic field be uniform, or even if it is not uniform, I can write it like this: d by dt of B times A times cos theta. Now what is B? B is the value of the magnetic field at that location where the surface has the value of area as A, and theta is the angle between B and A. And this we can integrate also. So let me write in this form only. D by dt of integral B times ds times cos theta. Now this EMF will change if any of these three quantities change: B, or ds, or you can say cos theta or theta. Any of these three quantities, if they change with time, then there will be some EMF. If B does not change with time, area of the loop does not change with time, angle between the magnetic field vector and area vector does not change with time, that means this parameter will become a constant. And then the derivative with respect to time will become zero and there will not be an EMF. For example, if I put a magnet, suppose this is a magnet and this is a coil. This is a copper wire. This is a magnet. If I hold them very close and do not move them, either of them, then it will have some magnetic field in this region where I have placed the loop, but that magnetic field will be constant. Area of this circular loop is also constant. I am not changing it. And the angle between magnetic field vector and area vector will also remain same. In that case, howsoever strong this magnet may be, there will not be any change in flux. And therefore, if a flux does not change, then EMF induced will be zero. So for E to be non-zero, the important thing is at least out of those three parameters, at least one of them must vary with time. So we have at least the magnetic field in magnitude or direction. Then area vector again in magnitude or direction. Or theta, the orientation of the coil with respect to the magnetic field. At least one of these three must change with time. At least one of magnetic field, area vector, or orientation, relative orientation, must vary with time. So if we can change magnetic field with time, we can expect EMF in the wire. If we can change area of the loop, we can expect EMF in the wire. If we can change angle of orientation between the magnetic field and area vector of the loop, we can expect induced EMF. And if the loop is closed as this one, if there will be induced EMF, there will be some flow of electrons and that will constitute electric current. And that electric current, so if loop is there, then there will be induced current and that induced current in the wire will be EMF, induced EMF, E induced upon resistance of the wire. But if we have a case like this where the circuit is not completed, then although there will be induced EMF, but induced current will become zero. For current to be observed, we must have closed path. So if we have a coil with a cut across it, then we'll have induced EMF if we are changing magnetic flux linking through it, but there will not be any induced current. Now, before I proceed further, now this is the gist of what we have discussed today. And that is Faraday's first law. This tells about the magnitude of induced EMF. The second law of Faraday, which we often call as Lenz's law, it helps us in determining the direction of induced current in the coil. And it's also a very important law. Statements you can find in the textbooks. This law suggests that whenever magnetic flux through a coil changes, EMF is induced, no doubt. The direction of induced current, the direction of induced current is so as to oppose the cause. It opposes the very cause that causes the electromagnetic induction in a particular loop. Clear? So let me summarize before starting some demonstrations. What I discussed, magnetic flux. Magnetic flux is the dot product of magnetic field and area vector. If we have some current loop or conducting loop, if we have some conducting loop or some circuit through which somehow we are changing magnetic flux. Now, when I say somehow we are changing magnetic flux, there are three possibilities. Either you can change magnetic field, or you can change area, or you can change orientation of the loop with relative to the magnetic field. Somehow, if you are changing any one of these three, the magnetic flux will change. And whenever magnetic flux will change, there will be induced EMF and sometimes induced current in the coil. When will there be induced current? When the coil will be complete. There should not be any cut in it. So let us now begin to understand these concepts with the help of some simple demonstrations. So let's see one by one. Okay, so this is the first and the simplest activity on electromagnetic induction. This is a galvanometer. You can see the needle points exactly at zero. It is usually used to detect the direction of current, whether it is flowing this side or this side. The terminals of the galvanometer we have connected to a wire which forms a loop, and that loop I have wrapped around some cylindrical object. So this loop is nothing but simply a copper wire which has been wrapped many number of times. There is no battery, nothing. Now I bring a magnet for creating magnetic field. So this is a magnet, you can see. If this magnet I bring close to this loop, observe the needle, what happens to it? We saw that it deflected towards left. And the same magnet in same position, if I take it away, you can see the needle deflected towards right. So this means since the needle shows deflection, that means there is some current in this particular loop. Moreover, when I bring the magnet close, current is in one direction, say like this. Then when I take the magnet away, the current reverses its direction. This can be explained on the basis of Faraday's laws. When I keep the magnet stationary, the magnetic field at the location of this coil does not change, area does not change, theta, which I have discussed earlier, also is not changing. So since there is no change in magnetic flux, there is no induced current, there is no induced EMF, and hence this galvanometer shows zero deflection. The moment I move the magnet towards the coil, so when the magnet moves towards the coil or away from the coil, the value of magnetic field at the location of this coil, within this coil, the magnetic field value keeps on changing, either increasing or decreasing. Due to the change in magnetic field, the magnetic flux changes. So let me explain. So in this experiment, what we are doing, we are changing B. B is changing. So either you are increasing or you are decreasing the value of magnetic field. If B changes, this results in change in magnetic flux because phi B is given as B dot ds vector. Because B changes, phi B changes, and because phi B changes, there is induced EMF, and because it is closed loop, there will be induced current, and because of induced EMF, there will be induced current, and because of the current, we say there is some deflection in the galvanometer. Is it clear, students? Now, when you move towards and when you move it away, in one case, the magnetic field in a given direction is increasing. In the second case, it is decreasing. Now, Lenz's law says the direction of current or induced current is so as to oppose the cause. The first case, the cause is increasing magnetic field, suppose. In second case, the cause is decreasing magnetic field. Since the causes are different, the direction of induced current will also be different. Hence, we get opposite deflection. Instead of moving this magnet, you can keep the magnet stationary and you can move the coil towards or away from it. And you can still observe the same effect. So it is the relative motion between the coil and the magnet which causes electromagnetic induction. It does not matter whether you are moving the magnet or you are moving the coil. Just relative motion between the magnet and the coil, that is not the only possibility. What I can do here is I can change theta. You see, I'm holding this magnet like this. I will start turning it. Observe the needle carefully. Sometimes it deflects towards left, sometimes it deflects towards right. And this is exactly what happens in an AC generator. So this simple device simply is an electric generator. Here we are creating electricity. We are generating electricity by moving a magnet, by rotating a magnet near to a coil. Is it clear? Instead of rotating the magnet, you can also rotate the coil. You can see. Both will work. So in generator also similar thing happens. There is a coil, there is to be a magnet. Then we rotate the magnet or the coil. Generally we rotate the coil, but it can work either way. So when we turn the coil in presence of magnetic field, because of electromagnetic induction, current is generated. Now see, when I turn this way and when I turn opposite way, so during half rotation, current is in one direction, next half rotation current is in opposite direction. So such a current is called as AC, alternating current. If I could rotate this magnet very fast at the rate of 60 times per second, 60 hertz, then this fluctuation will be so very fast. It means in 1 second it will fluctuate 60 times. You will not be able to even notice. So that is what actually you obtain at your homes. So 50 hertz or AC, 60 hertz AC supply is received at our homes. The principle is the same. It is on a smaller scale. In the domestic purposes, for domestic purposes, the electricity which you are getting, that is for in the large scale. So here when we are turning, what we are changing? We are changing theta, the angle between magnetic field and uh, area vector. Clear? Instead of turning it, what we can do, there are other ways of changing the magnetic field. What I have done, I have put the magnet below the coil. I'll take a iron material, this one. I'll put in this particular region in between the coil and then observe the deflection in the galvanometer. So this is a ferromagnetic material. Ferromagnetic material, when it will be put within the coil, actually it intensifies the magnetic field. So magnetic field strength will be increased not 2 times, 10 times, almost 900, 800,000 times, and so on. So magnetic field, because it gets intensified, you will observe the deflection will also be more. You see it carefully. Could you see? And if I increase the rate, I'll just tilt it a bit. If I move it fast, the deflection will be more, because what is creating the current is the rate of change of magnetic flux. The rate depends upon the time during which the change occurs. If you move it very slowly like so, you can see the induced EMF is less. But if you move it fast, the induced EMF is more, because E is d phi by dt. It depends upon the rate also. Okay. So this was our first demonstration on electromagnetic induction. I hope you have understood the concept. Let us proceed to have some more insight on this. Let's now see another activity. I discussed that the induced EMF or the current will depend upon the rate of change of flux. Manually, when I was turning the magnet, the rate was not very high. So although you could see some current in the galvanometer, but this current or the EMF induced was not sufficient. The EMF was not sufficient enough to glow a bulb. Now here we would like to glow some LEDs using the concept of electromagnetic induction. Now if you see carefully, this is simply a copper wire. The end is connected in the form of a loop, and the ends of this wire are connected to the terminals of a red LED, and similarly here I have a white LED. Simply take a wire, that wire has been wrapped, it has been made in the form of a circular coil, and its ends are connected to a LED bulb. I have another loop, circular loop. Here I have used a transistor. Now transistor we have not yet studied, students, but don't bother, that is not the purpose of our discussion. And here there will be some source of EMF. I'm using a battery. Now there is some current in this coil. But here I have not used any battery or source of EMF. But if I bring this coil or this coil close to the primary coil, this I'll call as primary because it is connected to the source of EMF. Just bringing them close, you will find something miraculous. Could you observe it close? Believe me, there is no contact, physical contact between these two wires. Just taking it close makes the wire glow. And if you are not believing that, let me put some, this is sheet of paper. Now let me put this close. You can see it is glowing. And as I take it away, the brightness will decrease and it stops glowing. When you take it close to this particular loop, then it will glow. Yes. What do you say? Likewise, this one you can see. And as I move away, you can see the brightness decreases and becomes almost uh, zero. And as I take it close, you can see brightness increases. Here the bulb has started glowing, but the brightness is less. As I move closer and closer and closer, it glows. Although there is no physical contact between these two coils connected with LEDs and the coil which is below that paper, but it is glowing. Explanation. This battery provides some current. In last chapter we have read, students, current carrying coil produces magnetic field. This magnetic field is changing very rapidly. Just in the same fashion as I was changing the magnet orientation, here also due to some reason, the magnetic field is changing rapidly. That is being done by this black material which we call as transistor. Don't bother about that. We are not here to read about transistors, but just remember it is acting like a switch. It is putting this current on and off very rapidly. When, let me first disconnect it while explaining. When it switches it on, current flows in this coil. That current carrying coil produces magnetic field. So magnetic field was earlier 0, and from 0 suddenly magnetic field attains some value, say B. Because there is increase in magnetic field, the flux which is given as B dot ds integral, the magnetic flux will also increase from 0 to some value. That means there is some change in magnetic flux. And if there is change in magnetic flux, we know there will be induced EMF, there will be induced current, and because of that current, these glow. Now, that magnetic field which is created by the primary coil, it's not confined within that coil. That magnetic field comes out of that coil. It spreads in the region around this coil. In that region, when we bring this coil, another coil connected to a LED, the current is large in the induced EMF is large. Why it is large? Because the rate of putting the current on and off is more. That is being done by this particular transistor. So it switches on and off. So magnetic field becomes zero, become from zero it rises to high value, again decreases to zero, again rises to high value, decreases to zero. So this rapid change in magnetic field causes rapid change in magnetic flux. Magnetic field changes very rapidly. Therefore, flux changes very rapidly. Since it is rapid, the rate of change of magnetic flux is large, and therefore induced EMF E is large. And hence, that is sufficient enough to glow a LED which needs a voltage of around 1.7, 1.8 volts to 2 volts. Is it clear, students? Okay. Now, before concluding today's class, let me discuss one more activity on Lenz's law. Suppose you have a coil of wire like so. This coil of wire, its plane is perpendicular to the plane of board. So plane of board is like this. The plane of this coil is like so. Suppose it hangs from some rigid support with the help of a thread, insulating thread. Now we bring a bar magnet, suppose with its north pole facing towards the coil, towards it. We bring this magnet. Now when we bring this magnet, we know Faraday's laws suggest that there will be some change in magnetic field through this coil, linking through this coil. So magnetic flux through this coil will change. Therefore, there will be some induced EMF. And because it forms a closed loop, there will be induced current. Now, how do we find the direction of induced current using Lenz's law? Now, Lenz's law says that the direction of induced current should be so as to oppose it. So, this coil will produce a magnetic field. It will have an induced current. That induced current will produce some magnetic field. That magnetic field should try to oppose the increasing magnetic field by bringing a magnet close to it. This magnet will produce a magnetic field in this direction. See, this solid part is out of the board like so, the dashed part is into the board. This is the magnetic field due to the bar magnet. I'm writing M. And this value will increase if we bring the magnet closer and closer to the coil. This magnetic field is increasing, this becomes the cause. Because if magnetic field is increasing, then we know that magnetic flux, which is B times ds vector integral, will also increase. So increasing flux is the cause. Lenz's law says it should be opposed. So it should be opposed. Increasing magnetic field in this direction, it has to be opposed. Now to oppose it, the current will be induced in such a direction that the magnetic field should tend to decrease this value. Because we have to oppose it. It is increasing. To decrease it, the induced current should produce magnetic field in opposite direction. And you know, students, you can use your right hand rule that to have the magnetic field in this direction. So this I can write as magnetic field due to induced current. Due to induced current, you can understand it. So this magnetic field will be in this direction if the current flows in this direction. Now, what is this sense? This sense, if you see it from this side, is anti-clockwise, opposite to the sense of clock. So I can put that like so. So when seen from right side, the direction of induced current will be anti-clockwise. And if you see from the left side, observe carefully, try to imagine yourself positioned over here, you will find that the same induced current in the same situation will be in clockwise direction. So this side, the magnetic field due to induced current. So if current is like this, you know the pattern of magnetic field lines due to current carrying coil. So if current is flowing like this, its magnetic field at the axis will be exactly along the axis, but as you move away, the magnetic field lines will turn like so. And they will form loops like this. They will form closed loops. Now, if you see this pattern carefully, we can say that that coil, suppose this is the coil, it has two faces. One face is this side, one face is this side. So just like in bar magnet, the magnetic field lines are like so. We say this is the north pole. So here the magnetic fields outside the coil is like so. We can say this side is like north, magnetic north, and this side is like magnetic south. And very easy way to remember, north I can write like so, south I can write like so. North, from this side, the direction of current is anti-clockwise. And if you see this N carefully, I have twisted it a bit. So this direction, when seen from your side, is also anti-clockwise. And from the other side, the direction of current is clockwise. So this S is clockwise. So this is a shortcut. It does not involve any concept, but it's useful. Sometimes it can help you. So this is how we are having the magnetic field created around this particular loop. Now let us discuss in detail what will happen if you bring it towards and then take it away. Just opposite is expected to happen if you take this bar magnet away from the coil. Let me quickly draw the figure. So the north pole of the bar magnet, now I will take it away. So this north pole produces magnetic field in this direction. This is the magnetic field due to the magnet. I am taking the magnet away from this coil. Since this magnet is moving away, the value of magnetic field in this direction will decrease. If this decreases, this implies flux will decrease. This is the cause, and it should be opposed according to Lenz's law. Now, to oppose it, the induced current should be so as to produce a magnetic field which will contribute to this. This is decreasing, so the induced current would tend to increase it as per Lenz's law because it has to oppose. Now to increase it, the magnetic field should be in same direction as this. Which magnetic field? The magnetic field due to the induced current. Now to have magnetic field in this direction, the fingers will curl like this. So the pattern of magnetic field lines will be like so. And this you can see from this side, right side. It will be in which sense? That will be clockwise. And clockwise, I have told you, clockwise means like clock. So it should behave as south pole. Clockwise like south pole. And the left side, here the direction of current will be anti-clockwise. You can see here. So anti-clockwise, I have told you, it will be like this. So it will behave like north pole. You can see the polarity here. Right side was north, but here the right side behaves as south. So opposite is expected to happen because the direction of motion of the magnet has been reversed. Likewise, you can think yourself what is expected to happen if you bring south pole towards the coil or take it away from the coil. How do we physically observe these things? One simple way is to just hang a coil like so and bring a magnet. If north pole of the magnet is brought closer, please listen carefully, then this side is developing north pole. If it is coming closer, it has to oppose it. The coil says no, stay there. So that is possible only when the face of the coil facing the magnet will develop similar polarity. So north and north, they will repel. That means it is opposing it. If they repel, what is expected to happen if you bring the magnet close to this coil? So if this is the coil, when the magnet comes closer, then because of similar polarity, there will be repulsion, it will be repelled. So there will be repulsion in this case. On the other hand, when we take the north pole of the magnet away, here, it has to be opposed. You can see this is north pole, it is going away. The coil, you can imagine, it says, please do not go. I have to oppose you. So the magnet is going away. It wants the magnet not to go away. So it tends to attract it. So this is north, this is south, they will attract. So there will be attraction. And what will be the result of the attraction? This coil would tend to move towards the north pole, towards the magnet. Here it was tending to move away from the magnet. Here it is moving towards the magnet. Now, what do you expect should happen if you take this magnet in your palm like so and you move it like so? So when it comes closer, magnet will push this coil, repel this coil, as I have explained, it will be repelled. And when you take it away, it will attract it. So repulsion, attraction. And because of this repulsion and attraction, the coil will start oscillating. And it is this activity which I am going to demonstrate you just now. So let's see this particular activity. In front of you, you can see there is a thread at the bottom of which a coil is hanging. Now this coil is at rest, and this coil is made up of actually copper wire. Simply, it has been wrapped and the ends are connected together. Now, over here, these are actually magnets. So, let me bring them closer to your view. So, these are actually neodymium magnets. They're strong magnets. And this copper has no effect. These magnets have no effect on copper. I can bring it close. You can see there is no attraction. No attraction, no attraction, nothing. Clear? Instead, this is a material made of iron. It shows some attraction. You can therefore presume that this is a magnet. As I have explained here, now this coil is at rest. I would just push this magnet into the coil and then I will take it out. I'll repeat this. So one time you should expect repulsion as I bring it closer, and other time when I take this magnet away from the coil, you should expect attraction, and the rest you can understand yourself. So enjoy this activity, students. As we have discussed in the theory, we expected to see an oscillating uh, coil. So when I moved this magnet towards and away, current flows in this coil once clockwise and once anti-clockwise. This creates magnetic field which creates north and south pole on either sides. The interaction between the magnetic field of this magnet and this coil causes it to oscillate. I hope you enjoyed this particular activity. Now try to introspect yourself how far you have understood the demonstrations which I have shown today, and these things really make physics interesting. Thank you, students. Take care. See you in the next class.